Hi, it's Thursday evening, and I'd like to talk about assignment number 2 for the luxury project that's due tomorrow before midnight, Friday before midnight. And for those of you who haven't yet done it, we also have exam number 2 that's due before midnight. So in another lecture video, I'll talk about quiz number 3, chapter 3, the readings, assignments that are due next week. But for right now, let's be sure that we understand for Luxury Project 2 what's expected. So I've read all the Luxury Project the first one, number 1, and I was really impressed with the work that you did. I think you really came up with a lot of interesting and intriguing kind of issues, and some of you provided suggestions for how the brand could do things differently and better, and perhaps identified real areas of strength, and also highlighted how maybe certain strengths that the brand has can be used in innovative ways in different kinds of contexts, in relation to the website. So I think you really are coming up with good ideas, and you're going to have a lot to work with. And it's going to be a practical kind of learning experience, I think, in terms of marketing, which is what we're trying to do in the class. So for the project number 1, again, some of you looked at what was exciting, what was innovative, what was entertaining about the brand in its offerings in terms of e-commerce on the website. Others identified issues that were dysfunctional, that were really annoying, that were problematic, and that needed to be corrected. So there were those two approaches, and then there were people in the middle who kind of took from one end and took from another end and kind of gave a sense of the good and the bad, and things that were more or less maybe not too exciting or interesting in the middle, that were neutral. So what you're going to do for project number 2, think of what you've done in project number 1 as a foundation. So we have some insight at this point into what the brand is doing, and hopefully you can pick out something that is intriguing and that is worthy of further investigation. Because after all, this is a consulting firm we imagine that we work for. The firm has been engaged to do a kind of strategic analysis to come up with suggestions to help the brand improve, right? Even if the brand is doing very well in your estimation, well, maybe in 2 months from now, maybe in 3 months from now, they're going to have to do something different, or they're going to have to introduce something new. So your job is then to think, well, what's the next step? What can they do to build on things that have been working very well? What's out there perhaps on the horizon that they can incorporate into their website, into their kind of e-commerce strategy. So that's something that you need to do. If something isn't working out very well, if you feel, for example, that the brand is not doing enough to reach out, let's say, to the younger consumer, to people that are college age, let's say, then that's something that you might want to focus on. You might want to say that there are certain things that seem to be outdated, or seem to be not really exciting enough or appealing enough or entertaining enough to reach out and to engage this particular demographic. So you want to identify what the issue is that you feel is worthy of further investigation. And we're not going to have to solve it, we're not going to have to answer, but we're going to present, this is my feeling about the direction we need to go in. Something that's important enough that requires, or that merits further attention, you want to identify. And then the next thing you want to do is identify how will you approach it, how will you learn more about this issue that you feel needs to be identified or needs to be addressed. So for example, if you feel that people in this particular age group are not being reached, are not going to be enticed enough by what the brand is currently offering in terms of its website, then maybe one approach might be to get people of that age group to go onto the website, to spend 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour, right, on the website, and then to report back what they especially liked, what they felt was effective, what they felt was interesting, engaging, and what they felt they didn't like or would change or should be done differently. right? And so you're going to get actual feedback. You're going to get responses from people, from the very people that you feel the brand is missing. So it's a kind of way of investigating and of supporting or finding, perhaps as the case may be, that you may have been wrong. Maybe people in that demographic will go on and say that they didn't have any problem. They found it to be exciting. They would go back, they would buy products, they would recommend it to friends, and then you've learned something that's positive too. So you want to identify an issue, and you want to identify a methodology or an approach to understanding more, to discovering more about that issue, right? If you feel that, for example, customer service is not being handled adequately on the website, maybe you can send an email if you have a question, and hours or days or weeks, who knows, later you may get a response, and that's not adequate, and you feel like brands, like somebody pointed out, J. Crew, you can get help right away, instantaneously, if you need it. A live video chat session can be started, and you can't do that, let's say, on your brand's website, and that's a real shortcoming. You identify that as your issue that you would like to investigate further, that you feel requires some attention by the brand, some investigation by yourself, first of all, and then you identify how you're going to approach it. So maybe another way of approaching it might be, instead of getting people to actually interact with the website and report back to you, another approach might be a full analysis of the literature that's out there. There's all kinds of bloggers that blog about luxury. There are websites. There are, like the Wall Street Journal, Women's Wear Daily. There are all kinds of magazines within the industry that deal with luxury and that report about and investigate and report research that others have done on luxury. So you can say that you're going to undertake an analysis of the literature to find out what we can about how well that brand is doing in terms of its website, and in particular in terms of customer service. So that's another approach which would satisfy in some way the question that you want to address. So think about that for project number 2. It's not that you have to solve it, that you have to answer it, but you're just proposing an interesting and intriguing, a problematic issue that needs to be addressed, and then you're explaining how you will address it. So that's all we need to do for Friday for project number 2. Thanks for listening, and I will continue and present more information in the next 2 days. Thanks.